Welcome. If you're moving to Ontario or you just landed here, it's time for some straight, honest talk and hard truths about living in Ontario. We are talking about what no one tells newcomers to Ontario. Living in Canada's most populous province isn't all roses and sunshine. There are some hard truths that you need to hear. And today we'll break down the real deal about life in Ontario in 2025 and beyond. I'm not sugarcoating anything, God help me. But by the end, you'll be better prepared for the road ahead in Ontario and maybe decide if Ontario is right for you or not. Or maybe you should start looking at another province. Now, I know there's the GTA and the non-GTA in Ontario, and many of the information I'm giving are skewed to the GTA. If you want me to talk about another province, leave it in the comments and I will get to work on that video for you as soon as possible. I spent several weeks researching this information for you and I went through several websites, so this is very valuable. So make sure to save it and like the video, okay? Now let's dive right in. First, let's address cost of living. Now, when people think of high cost in Ontario, they usually think about housing. But guess what? Even beyond rent or mortgage, everyday living is expensive. Groceries, utilities, insurance, phone bills, it all adds up quickly. Food prices have been rising lately. The average single adult now spends around $450 to $550 a month on groceries, and grocery costs jumped about 6.2% year on year. In fact, Canada's official food price report predicts another 3 to 5% increase in 2025. So that $2 loaf of bread you bought last year, it might be $2.15 or more now. And it's not just food. Utility bills are biting hard. Gosh, especially in winter. Expect to pay $300 to $450 per month for electricity, heating, water, and internet in Ontario. And fun fact, Ontario's electricity rates are among the highest in Canada, so winter heating will give your wallet a workout. Even your cell phone and internet are pricier than what many newcomers are used to. Canada has some of the most expensive telecom fees in the world, which comes as a shock to many newcomers and international students. Now, let's talk about transportation. If you drive, budget for gas about $1.60 per liter. That's roughly what it averages now. And car insurance averages about $1,700 a year. Yes, Ontario has the dubious honor of having very high car insurance, and it's gotten worse. In fact, in mid-2025, Ontario's car insurance premiums were up 10.4% compared to the year before, one of the highest jumps in Canada. So you are not imagining things. Your insurance renewal might sting a little bit. Now, if you rely on public transit, that's not cheap either. A monthly adult pass in Toronto is about $156. All these little costs often surprise newcomers, so be prepared. Ontario also loves its sales tax. This one is annoying. There's a 13% HST or sales tax on most purchases, which means that a $100 shopping trip is actually $113 at the register. Between taxes and higher base price, the cost of everything from clothing to a cup of coffee is just higher. Bottom line, budget, budget, budget. Don't land in Ontario thinking only about rent. Plan for the whole basket of expenses. Housing might be the biggest slice of the pie, but the rest of the pie isn't cheap either. The high cost of living is a reality many Ontarians are grappling with. You won't be alone, but you will definitely feel it. Now, Ontario is Canada's immigrant hub, and while it's very welcoming on paper, the process of settling can be an uphill climb. Let's start with bureaucracy. Canada's immigration system is slow right now. As of mid-2025, there was a backlog of over 840,000 applications waiting in the system. That means that if you're sponsoring a spouse or you're waiting on your permanent resident card, you could be waiting for longer than you would like. People are waiting months, sometimes even years, for paperwork that used to be faster. It's frustrating, but it's the current reality, so be patient. And in 2024, the unemployment rate for immigrants hit 11%, double the rate for Canadian-born workers. Now, those numbers reflect systemic hurdles, credential recognition, lack of networks, maybe even some bias. We can't deny that. So be mentally prepared for a potential step down or sideways in your career initially. The Ontario government is trying to improve credential recognition. For example, they are speeding up nursing license approvals for foreign trained nurses, but change is gradual. Now, Canada has a reputation as a safe country, and generally that's true. But safe doesn't mean crime free. Newcomers are sometimes startled to learn that big cities like Toronto and Ottawa have crime issues as well. So let's face the reality. Sadly, violent crime and theft have been on the rise in recent years. In Toronto, for example, car theft has exploded. Over 12,000 vehicles stolen in 2023, which is double the number just 5 years earlier. By the half of 2024, car thefts were still 82% higher than they were in 2021. It's literally an epidemic. Certain models of cars vanish overnight and are often shipped overseas by organized gangs. So if you buy a car, invest in a steering lock or a tracker because Ontario has a serious car theft problem. Now, what about violent crime? This isn't to scare you, but to inform you. Some categories of violent crime have increased. In Toronto, again, the first half of 2024 saw robberies up by 21% and homicides up by 36% compared to the same period the year before. Other cities have seen spikes as well. York Region, which is just north of Toronto, had almost double the robberies in early 2024 compared to a few years prior. There have been headline-grabbing incidents, random attacks on public transit, brazen shoplifting, etc., etc. Does this mean that Ontario is dangerous everywhere? No, I didn't say that, but it's not the idyllic, crime-free place that some might imagine. Big city problems exist here too. You would want to use the same common sense safety precautions you would anywhere. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't leave valuables in plain sight. Lock your doors, and so on and so forth. On a more positive note, despite the uptick in crime statistics, Canada remains safer than many countries. Gun violence, for instance, is far lower here than in the US. The odds of being a victim of violent crimes are still relatively low. Most people feel comfortable walking around their cities in daylight and often at night in busy areas. It's about being alert but not being afraid. Now, moving to a new country isn't just about jobs and housing. It's also about finding your place in a new society. Ontario is incredibly diverse, especially cities like Toronto, where over half the residents were born outside Canada. But that doesn't mean integration is automatic or easy. The hard truth is this: adjusting socially can be challenging, and it's common to feel lonely or like an outsider at first. Now, let's start with the social vibe. Canadians and Ontarians in particular are often described as polite but reserved. You might find it's not easy to make close friends quickly. Neighbors will smile and say hi. Co-workers will chat about the weather. Oh, we love talking about the weather. But breaking into deeper friendships can take time. Now, this is something that many newcomers struggle with. You may have left behind a tight social circle or family, and you arrive here to find that people are friendly, but they're a bit distant. It's not you, it's just the culture here, okay? It takes initiative to get social traction. Now, my advice is this: say yes to invitations, join community events, go to parties, find cultural associations or hobby clubs, make the effort to make friends. There are groups for everything in Ontario, from Nigerian moms to Africans in Canada to photography groups to newcomer meetings. They are there. Put yourself out there. Even if it feels awkward, it pays off in the end. And in Ontario, you will hear accents from all over the world. It rarely matters as long as you can communicate with each other. One aspect that newcomers often underestimate is cultural norms and small talk. Things like tipping at restaurants. Around 15 to 20% is expected. Or the way Canadians might avoid direct disagreement to be polite. Be wise with this one. Or the obsession with hockey. These little cultural quirks can either charm you or confuse you. It's okay to ask questions. People usually don't mind explaining. Now, let's talk about a tougher subject: discrimination. Ontario is proudly multicultural, and most newcomers do feel welcome. But some face racism or bias. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's not. It could be an employer that is not valuing foreign experience, or a landlord that is hesitating to rent to you, or unfortunately, even hate incidents. These experiences can hurt and make integration feel harder. There are laws and human rights protections in Canada. You have rights if you feel discrimination. And there are organizations like the Ontario Human Rights Commission and legal aid clinics that can help if you encounter serious issues. It's important to note these instances. They are not the norm for most, but they do happen. If it happens to you, reach out for support. Don't suffer silently. Many communities have networks where people share experiences and advice on how to cope. On the flip side, Ontario offers a chance to share your culture as well. Many newcomers eventually feel not just integrated, but that they enrich the social fabric of the society. You will find cultural festivals all over Ontario, from the Diwali celebrations in Brampton to Chinese New Year in Markham to Caribbean Carnival in Toronto. You might be surprised how much people know or want to know about your own homeland's food, your music, and your traditions. So while you are adapting to Canada, Canada is adapting to you too. Now, let's switch gears to something that is very practical, and that's getting around in Ontario. Depending on where you settle, transportation can be either a breeze or a daily torment. The Greater Toronto Area or GTA is infamous for traffic and long commutes, while smaller cities and towns might have limited transit options. So, buckle up. Here are the hard truths on moving from point A to point B in Ontario. First of all, let's address public transit. Ontario's big cities have decent public transit systems. Like Toronto has their subways, streetcars, and buses. Ottawa has the LRT and buses. Smaller cities like Hamilton and London have bus networks. But if you've heard Canadians boast about how great our public transit is, temper your expectations. 2024 study found that Toronto has the second worst transit commute in all of North America. Only Vancouver was worse. The average transit commute in Toronto is 55 minutes one way. And that's just the average. Plenty of people spend over an hour each way, depending on where you're going to. You often have to take multiple connections like bus to subway to bus, that kind of thing. Only 22% of Toronto transit riders have a one-seat ride. Most people have 2 or 3 transfers. So, if you're in the suburbs and you rely on transit, be ready to budget a big chunk of your day for commuting. Outside of rush hour, buses or trains might run infrequently. Oh, and those lovely winter storms that we talked about earlier, they can affect transit schedules as well. On the bright side, cities are trying to improve. There is more subway lines under construction in so many cities, including Toronto, but these projects move at a slow speed. In the meantime, park your patience for crowded buses and the occasional delays if you are using public transport. But what if you are driving? Many Ontarians choose to drive, especially in areas where transit is lacking. But then you face traffic. If you're commuting from, say, a suburb to downtown Toronto by car, you could be looking at an average of an hour plus crawl each way on the highways. And yes, our highways like the 401 are 6+ lanes wide, but they're still jam-packed. Gas and parking in city centers cost a fortune. Downtown Toronto parking can be $200 plus a month to get a spot. Ontario's drivers also pay high insurance, as we covered before. So the car life has its own headaches and expenses. On top of that, winter driving can be scary if you're not used to snow driving. You will need good winter tires and some practice driving in slushy, icy conditions. In some cases, commuting is a trade-off that you make for cheaper housing. Like a lot of people live further out where rent or houses are more affordable and they commute into the city for work. That can mean 1 to 2 hours each way daily. It's a lifestyle choice. More space at home, but less free time because, you're on the road or you're on the train. Only you can decide if that trade-off is worth it. Now, just know that Ontario's geography and urban spread often force that choice. The term supercommuter, that's people who travel extreme distances daily, is a thing here. If you live in a small town or rural area, public transit might be non-existent or it might be scarce. You will certainly need a car, and that is going to add costs. Ride shares like Uber or Lyft exist in many areas, but using that daily is not practical money-wise. We also have the Via Rail, that's the train, or the Go Transit, which are regional train or buses like Toronto area. They can help with intercity travel, but their services can be infrequent depending on the line. Now, one pro tip if you're coming as a newcomer with an existing driver's license, check how to exchange your foreign driver's license for an Ontario driver's license. Some countries have exchange agreements which can save you from starting from scratch. But if not, you have to go through Ontario's graduated licensing system, which can take usually about 2 years from beginner to full license, unless you have proof of driving experience and you pass some of the driving tests. Also, driving tests in Ontario are backed up. I hear that people sometimes wait months for a road test appointment because COVID backlogs and staffing issues persist. But even now, the hard truth about commuting is that it can be one of the most draining parts of life in Ontario. Surveys often find Torontans and other city dwellers complaining about their commutes. It impacts work-life balance because you get to spend less time at home. Ontario's education system has a strong reputation globally. People come here for world-class universities and good public schools. But beneath that shiny exterior are some challenges and realities to be aware of. For parents with kids in kindergarten to grade 12, the public school system is generally of high quality and is free to residents. You will pay indirectly through taxes, but no school fees are required for public schools. However, there are some issues. One is overcrowding and under-resourcing in some schools. I haven't seen that, but I have heard that class sizes have been a hot topic. The provincial government has at times attempted to increase class size caps, which teachers have opposed. Surprisingly, your child might be in a class of 20 to 30 other kids with one teacher and maybe no assistant. If your child has special needs, services are available. Please keep involved with your kids' school and don't hesitate to speak up if you sense any problems. Schools here encourage parents to engage. Public schools also vary by area. Generally, schools in more affluent neighborhoods have more active parent councils, and they also have more fundraising, which can translate into extras for the school. The provincial government funds schools, aiming for equity, but there are disparities. There's also a separate publicly funded Catholic school system. Yes, Ontario is unique in that way. That is for Catholic families primarily, though non-Catholics can attend in many cases. This gives you another set of school options because Catholic schools often have uniforms and they have religious education, but otherwise they follow the same curriculum as the public schools. Ontario's high schools offer a pretty broad curriculum, including the popular Ontario Secondary School Diploma, OSSD, and options like French immersion or specialized programs like arts. In some areas, if your kids are older, be aware that they might need to earn volunteer hours. People in Ontario High School must earn 40 hours of community service in order to graduate. Also, guidance for post-secondary can vary. It's a competitive system for university and college entry, and immigrant parents might need to quickly learn the ropes to help their teens to get admission. Now, for post-secondary, Ontario has some of Canada's top institutions, University of Toronto, McMaster, University of Waterloo, and many more, plus even the best colleges that provide practical diploma degrees, and the quality of education is generally very high. The hard truth here is mostly about cost and funding issues. If you're an international student, brace yourself. Tuition fees are not cheap. Popular programs like engineering or computer science can be even more expensive. In contrast, a domestic student might pay maybe $8,000 for the same program. This gap exists because universities rely on international students for revenue. Somebody even said they use them like ATMs to fund the schools. So yes, international students often subsidize the system. It's a point of contention, and you should know it going in because you'll feel it in your bank account. So like anything in this province, doing your homework and planning ahead helps. So talk to other parents or students, get tips, and take advantage of orientation programs. Education is a big reason that many people choose Ontario, and it often pays off, but you should be financially and mentally prepared for the ride. Canada's universal healthcare is often a selling point, and yes, not worrying about a 100,000 hospital bill is a relief. But free healthcare comes with its own headaches in Ontario, mainly wait times and doctor shortages. So let's talk about the realities so you're not caught off guard when you need to go to the hospital. First is the challenge of getting a family doctor. In Ontario, ideally, everyone should have a family doctor, your go-to for checkups, referrals, and non-emergency issues. The hard truth, though, is family doctors are in short supply. As of 2024, over 2.5 million Ontarians don't have a family doctor. That's almost 1 in 4 people, and it's projected to get worse as many older doctors retire. By 2026, it could be 4 million without one. So, if you arrive and you can't find a doctor taking new patients, know that it's not just you. It's a province-wide challenge. The government is trying to address it by opening up more medical spots, giving incentive programs, but those measures will take time to bear fruits. In the meantime, many people rely on walk-in clinics for basic care. Walk-in clinics are clinics where you don't need an appointment. You just walk in, you show up, you wait to see a doctor. They can handle minor illnesses, prescriptions, and all of that, but you might not see the same doctor every time. If you're in a major city, you'll likely find some walk-ins, though the lines could be long, but in rural areas, it can be tougher. Some people resort to virtual clinic apps to consult doctors online, which is a growing trend here. As a newcomer, make sure you understand when you become eligible for OHIP. That's the Ontario Health Insurance Plan. Usually, permanent residents become eligible after a 3-month waiting period. Now, there are some exceptions, but international students often get school-provided insurance since they are not usually covered by OHIP in many cases. OHIP covers most medically necessary services like doctor visits, hospital stays, most diagnostic tests, but it doesn't cover things like prescription drugs for adults under 65, dental care, eyeglasses or eye exams for adults 20 to 64 years, and a bunch of other things like that, like physiotherapy and stuff. Many Canadians get supplemental private insurance for these, either through their employer benefits or out-of-pocket plans. Despite all these challenges, the quality of care when you get it is usually excellent. Our doctors and nurses are professional, and the system ensures that you won't go bankrupt from illness. Newcomers often marvel at walking out of a hospital after major treatment with a $0 bill. It is a fantastic thing. But on a day-to-day basis, the frustration is in accessing that care promptly. So what can you do? If you have ongoing health issues, bring your medical records, sign up for a family doctor waitlist. There is a provincial service called Healthcare Connect that might help match you. Don't hesitate to use walk-in clinics as well. So in summary, Ontario's healthcare will have your back for big things, but you might have to endure delays for the small and medium things. It's still a blessing to have coverage, but be mentally prepared that it's not as simple as walk in and get treated immediately, especially in some cases. And please get yourself and your family registered for health cards and find a primary care provider as soon as you can. Don't wait until you're really sick to navigate the system. Being proactive will save you a lot of time and problems. They say the only things certain in life are debt and taxes. In Ontario, taxes will definitely find you. As a newcomer, Canada's tax system can be an adjustment, and there are plenty of government fees and costs that might not be obvious at first. Let's break down the tax shock that you might experience in Ontario. Sales tax or HST. We touched on this. It's 13% on most purchases. You buy a laptop for $1,000, you pay $1,130 after tax. There is no way around it. Prices are almost always listed before taxes in stores, so don't forget about that extra bit at checkout. Essential items like basic groceries are tax exempt. Thankfully, you won't pay HST on milk or vegetables, but dine out at a restaurant or buy a shirt, you're paying the tax, and it adds up. Canada has a progressive tax system that's federal plus provincial, so the more you earn, the higher your tax bracket. If you're working, taxes will be deducted from your paycheck automatically. Now, for reference, a middle income earner might end up giving roughly 20 to 30% of their salary to income tax and payroll contributions. High earners who earn over $220,000 with combined tax rate of about 53% on the top portion of their income, not the entire income. That sounds terrifying, I know, but remember that that's the top bracket. Their overall effective rate is lower. Still, compared to some countries, the tax bite can feel large. The trade-off is those taxes fund things like healthcare, public schools, and all the other things that you enjoy. So whether it's worth it or not is a personal judgment. Just know that come spring every year, everyone files a tax return. Even if you were only here part of the year as a newcomer, you will file for that year to possibly get certain credits or refunds. If you have kids or a lower income, you might get tax benefits like the Canada Child Benefit or the GST HST credit. Basically, cash payments to offset costs, which are very nice. Now, one could ask, do we get value for these taxes? That's a debate we can't solve here, but I will say this. If you're coming from a country with lower taxes but fewer public services, you will notice some differences. For example, our taxes fund municipal services like your trash pickup, snow clearing. Don't forget to file your taxes each year, even if you have little income. The system may give you credits or benefits if you're eligible, but only if you file taxes. There are free tax clinics everywhere that can help you file your taxes. In short, Ontario will take its pound of flesh in taxes and fees, but this is how the social systems stay afloat. The hard truth is that your paycheck won't be all yours. You will give some of them to the government. So budget with taxes in mind and always keep an emergency fund because inevitably things can spring up and you might need money for things like emergencies. Now, work-life balance is a major issue. Despite Canada's reputation for a laid-back life, newcomers often find themselves working harder and longer here just to get established. Imagine coming from a country where maybe you had household help or you had family support to suddenly doing everything by yourself, cooking, cleaning, childcare, on top of a full-time job, or maybe even 2 jobs, and you might be studying as well. It can feel like you're on a hamster wheel. In fact, nearly half of recent immigrants in the 2024 survey say they found it hard to meet financial needs and they were dissatisfied with the amount of free time that they have. That doesn't mean life in Ontario is miserable, but especially in your initial years, you might be trading leisure and family time for extra work hours or side hustles to make ends meet. The hustle culture is real for many people, driving Uber on weekends, doing gig work to cover that high cost of living. So why do people put up with it? Why do people still stay in Ontario? Well, often it's for the kids or the future. You might be living in a small apartment, working 2 jobs, feeling exhausted, but you tell yourself it's for a better future for your children or for a career payoff down the road. That's a common trade-off, the present sacrifice for future gain. It does usually get better with time. Career advancement, financial stability, kids grow up, and perhaps they need less daycare, which can cost as much as rent. But it can be a rough ride for a while. And honestly, there's an upside to all of these. Ontario and Canada in general still offers a lot of what we come for, stability and safety, despite the annoyances. It's a pretty stable place politically and economically. The economy is diverse. If one part doesn't work out, often another part might work out for you. Maybe your foreign credentials were not recognized, but you retain in a new field and you find success. Or your kids, having grown up here, flourish in ways that wouldn't have been possible back home. Once you settle, you may come to appreciate the little things like clean parks, public libraries. They are fantastic and free. Health coverage, the ability to breathe clean air, to speak freely, to have your rights protected. Many newcomers value the sense that my children's future is secure, even if the present is a bit tough. It's a balance. You might not be able to afford the kind of home that you dreamed of for a while, or ever the market stays crazy, but you can walk outside without fear. You can drink tap water safely and access world-class education. You might not see your parents or extended families as often, but perhaps you feel a sense of personal freedom or societal acceptance here that you lacked before. Living in Ontario can be rewarding, but it requires resilience and adaptability. Now that you know the hard truths, you can tackle them head on. And remember, thousands have walked this path before. You can too. The challenges are real, but so are the rewards. Keep your chin up, stay informed, and ask for help when you need it. And make choices that are right for your family's happiness, not just what the glossy, colorful brochures say. Thanks so much for sticking with me through these hard truths. This wasn't about discouraging you, it's about empowering you with knowledge. Ontario in 2025 is full of promise but also full of challenges. If you're prepared, you'll handle them so much better. Remember that you're not alone on this journey. Now, whether you're a newcomer, a student hustling part-time job, a skilled worker trying to find your first Canadian job, or even a family carving out a new life for themselves, there's a whole community of us out here living it and supporting each other. If you found this useful, give it a thumbs up And consider sharing it with someone else that is currently an Ontarian or likely to be an Ontarian soon. Now, drop a comment about your own experiences or your fears. Let's help each other out. Living in Ontario has its hard truths, but it also has great rewards. Now, what other province should I talk about next? Drop in the comments and I'll pick the one with the highest number of comments. I'll be checking the comments now, and I'll see you in the next video.